Doing something for the first time is wild. And when you think of the outdoors, it's inherently wild. I think most important thing for me is sharing an activity, sharing what I love with people that have not experienced that or have some kind of barrier related to it. The magic of being able to create that bond, that connection with an activity, a person, a place, that's special. Well, let's get right into it. Another episode of Sincerely Yours Outdoors. Same spot, more sun.
Same jacket?
Same brother, same jacket. Yeah, I'm gonna bake like some cake in here, but I'm feeling good. It's a microwave right here.
You'll be sweating soon enough.
Hey. Brings out the beauty, right? So they say.
Well,
The dewy.
yeah.
Okay. Well, how we feeling, guys? I mean, more sun, better backdrop at this point in terms of fog is burnt away, but how we feeling?
Michael?
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I love the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah.
I feel so fortunate to be right on the border between Portland or like Oregon and Washington, and
Yeah.
it's a phenomenal day. Anytime it's like sunny like this,
Yeah.
Can't
amazing.
beat it. Yeah.
I feel good. I mean, we've been really fortunate with great weather since we've been here. And both of our Pacific Northwest trips I feel like we've hit the lottery. It hasn't rained yet. And even for our trip here for Portland, it rained before we got here. The day before we got here. So we've been really fortunate.
We know. By the Airbnb, we know.
Yeah. Tune into the recap. I feel like it's probably better weather here than in Pittsburgh. And I feel like that happens every time that we travel, which is really fortunate for us. Yeah, I'm feeling great. As everyone can probably see at this point in time, sunrise means clearing out this fog that we had. We're in the same setup, but likely a different kind of interpretation of such, which feels good.
Yeah.
How are you feeling?
Yeah.
Outside of warm?
Yeah, I'm great. I'm feeling great. I don't mind being warm. Don't mind one bit. It's not like the like 90 degrees sticky warm. It's like, soaking the rays, like relatively comfortable, but obviously with a layer on, it's good to get a little sweaty.
Yeah.
But it's cool. But
Enjoy it. We don't get this. This time is probably gone for us in Pittsburgh, so it's like
for sure.
this weather. Like I'm most definitely willing to sit in it. So feels good.
I agree. Well, we got a great guest today, Michael. Yeah, it's great to see you, brother. How you feeling?
Pleasure. Absolute pleasure to be here.
Yeah.
I'm feeling great. Yeah, WRMC is a cool conference. I'm excited to be here in person, which has been really great. I kind of did both of it virtually and in person, and the in-person is so much more fun to get a chance to connect with everybody, so it's been good.
Yeah, for sure. We always like to kind of lay the groundwork for individuals to like introduce themselves how you see best fit. You know,
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a professional, like, oh, this is what I do professionally. I think everyone has different journeys in the outdoors.
Yeah.
Some of those passions turn into careers, but I think the recreational pursuits that we have are just as powerful. So we'd love to open up the floor to you for you to introduce yourself.
Yeah, I would say I'm someone who just like thoroughly enjoys being outside in any capacity as possible.
For sure.
Like, I feel a buzz of just being outside, and I've thankfully been able to turn that into a career. I switched careers at a certain point, and the defining like arrow was just I need to work outside. And now I feel like I've got phenomenal community, impactful work, and I still get to be outside like myself personally.
Yeah, for
So,
sure. That's
yeah.
great.
Excellent.
Yeah.
It's beautiful when you can turn, that into like your passion into like secondarily getting paid. you
Yeah,
know?
totally,
It's like
yeah.
you're
Surviving.
You're doing what you do or what you love, but you just so happen to get paid for it.
Yeah.
So I love when we can like capture stories and have people share that sentiment for such, because we're not all privileged to doing that. So how, like, before jumping into how that started for you, what are you consuming nowadays? What are you like tapping into? This can be like across mediums. So what are you reading? What are you listening to that is compelling that you would like to share as it relates to you at this moment?
Currently reading The Four Pivots, phenomenal book right now. Reimagining Justice. It's about, not fully done with it, but so far so great. And just around like finding and healing yourself before you can like give that out into the world, which has been like really congruent with this conference and some of the points that we've been trying to make. So that's been a really phenomenal read. Music-wise, I'm all over the place. Like, I'm a huge audiophile, love music. Currently right now, there's a group called Jungle, and their album's Volcano. Yeah, y'all into it?
Magnificent.
Cool. I just bought it on vinyl and I'm like thumping
As
it
you
over
should.
and over
Okay.
again. It's been so good.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a short and sweet for now.
Well, that's
not a bad one hit.
That is a
right there.
resounding one,
Yeah.
for
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Perhaps maybe my album of the year, but we
Oh
may
my
have that
God.
conversation at a later date.
Yeah.
So thank you for that
To-
reiteration.
Yeah, 100%. Do
Just,
you have a favorite song?
you can't slide by hot takes like that.
Honestly, I think it all is just like a run. Like
Yeah.
I don't jump into that album without playing the whole thing,
Yeah, that's fair.
because I think it like the sequencing and the production and even just like the masterpiece that it is throughout each element. I get like so many different like variable moods throughout, which are like all sonically incredible.
Yeah.
There's other albums that I can jump into and I'm like, I'll jump right to track number 7
Yeah.
and I'll stop by 9 kind of thing. So that's not it for me. So it's a really good album. What about you? You got a certain song that comes to mind that jumps out at you?
Well, I like that you brought up the transitions because it gives me like best of Earth, Wind, and Fire vibes. The way their like transitions are, they're really clean. And Dominoes and Problems are probably like two of my favorites. Now, I will also listen to the entire album, but like those are like, oh yeah, turn it up just a little bit more.
Agreed. The vocal inflection on Dominoes is, I don't know what is like the back, like what is playing in the back, but like it's kind of like synthy with like what's going on back there, but it's incredible. I'm glad you and I can have this A to B conversation surrounding that.
Yeah. I don't contribute to hot takes, so I let those burn in front of me. Are you a person that listens to music while you're outdoors? Are you like a headphones guy, or you're like, oh, when I'm in nature, I just want to be in nature. There's no better sound than the natural environment?
Ooh, that's a great question. Don't typically listen to music when I'm in the backcountry. Like sounds silly, like the whole stoic philosophy of like what could you gotta do without and experience. And sometimes when I go climbing, I'll listen to music just because it's helpful like to pump up for me. But that's kind of a different pursuit for me than other ways. And then I definitely keep headphones just in case, because sometimes there's like, I find if there's a slog that I need to like get into, I'm very much into like listening to music to get through that. But yeah, I enjoy like the crunch of the snow, or like kind of feeling more of the elements, and I like to remove stuff. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very meditative in nature.
Yeah.
Consistency of sound that you can manipulate. It's very interesting.
yeah.
So thanks for sharing that. So,
Yeah.
I know we wanted to open up and kind of get some context around your. I mean, I'm just waiting. Just for safety, you know? They might turn on the afterburners and it's like, oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, we wanted to transition into just kind of getting your outdoor story. I mean, I think everyone starts their engagement in the outdoors either through connection or just even solo pursuits. And I think some of that information is extremely important to share with the community, because the diversity of engagement and interaction with the outdoors, whether it be in a group setting or individually, is important. You know, it validates your experience, and just because it's different doesn't mean that it's devalued.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that we get a bevy of those experiences, so all the listeners that are hearing, you know, their experience or connecting with an individual can say, oh, I connect with that, and my experience is just as valid. So how did you first engage? What's the first memory that you have outside that kind of spawned your love for the outdoors, and maybe who was that with?
Like Civil War monuments. My dad, like I said, both my parents, or maybe I didn't say that, both my parents were in the military. And so we traveled a lot when I was a kid, just moving around. And my dad really liked the Civil War, so we would frequently stop at places around the country. And then he's originally from Maryland, so when we moved back after he retired, and I was with my family only, did a lot with my family who lives there, of like crabbing on the back of a dock or fishing on the back of a dock. And then that kind of all started we had like a little bit of a garden. We're a big salsa family, and so we'd always try and grow at least like most of our ingredients for salsa.
Okay.
But yeah, I would say like probably fishing and hunting is like what solidified like that piece for me around actively wanting to like go into the outdoors.
I love that. Like how, like, as there's like a evolution and a journey, you know, as to kind of like your start there. Like, how does that continue to grow throughout with, you know, young Michael, with all that you mentioned, visiting monuments, fishing, crabbing, things of that nature, hunting, to the point where you are now? Not that they're like linear.
Yeah.
You know, people take breaks, people have various interests, people are curious about things, so perhaps shifting within such.
Yeah.
But how did that lead to your recreation as it looks like now?
Ooh, that's a great question. I think like right now, my recreation is around a lot of like personal pursuits, whereas a few years ago it was very focused on like professional development or like getting like a footing within the career of what I wanted to do. Growing up, military was like where I was gonna go, and then right around when I was graduating, the war in Afghanistan started in Iraq. My dad had done some Desert Shield tours, so my mom's pretty terrified. He was pretty terrified. They pushed me out of the military. I kind of bounced around thinking that the outdoors was maybe just kind of more of a pastime hobby, kind of. We didn't really go out a ton besides crabbing and fishing. My dad didn't really like to go out, and my mom didn't either, because they did it for work, essentially, when you kind of do some stuff with the military.
Yeah.
But I had like really great mentors that would take me hunting and fishing pretty frequently. But I needed like a real job. So I went to community college for a little bit and was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And then I was like, well, I'm really good with math. Let's do business. And then I was like, I'll just try and make a bunch of money to then do these like pursuits that people are like, why would you want to spend money on that? But I'm like, well, if I have an excess, then like no one will question that. I can kind of do with it what I want. It was pretty miserable. The culture there was toxic, for me at least, and but it was like, you know, my family was very proud. A white collar job, you know. I was the first person in my family to go to college, so that was like a big deal. And after a while, I ended up moving back out to Washington, where I used to live as a kid when we were moving around, and fully jumped into the like outdoor lifestyle as like what I saw through a lot of media. So at one point I like lived out of a vehicle for a couple of years, would try and work as many seasonal jobs as possible, and was a sponge. I was trying to like learn as much as I could, read as much as I could, so that I could make it into a career, because other people did, so why not me, you know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's what set my soul on fire. Like fully being outside is what was like, if I was outside doing anything, I knew I was going to be happy to my core, and that was like the best version of myself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You just shared so much that I have so many questions.
So
to
I have a
consider.
lot too. Like, yeah, I'm trying to
Thank you.
I'm trying to
Thank
store
you.
them so that you can
Yeah.
get yours in first.
I mean, I'll go with the low-hanging fruit. Are we talking like mild salsa? Or are we talking hot? Like what?
Like 2 to 3 habaneros.
Oh boy.
okay.
Yeah, actually, so I like
you
to garden.
burning tongues,
Clear the
huh?
sinuses.
Yeah. I mean, it's really, to me, like, it's a form of like a fruit smoothie. I don't know. You get all the good stuff in there. Like, each of those ingredients has such a like benefit to the body. And so for me, like coming out a lot of times out of the woods, that's like fresh veggies and like
that's a good point.
good spice. And I put like some olive oil in there, so there's some good fat as well. And
Oh, you went crazy.
but quick tangent, I actually grew a Carolina Reaper this year.
my
Finally, are you
God.
familiar?
Yes, I'm
Yeah.
terrified.
Yeah, I haven't tried it, but I've been trying for like 3 years to grow one, and I finally grew one, so I'm pretty excited.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
So hottest
sounds-
hottest pepper in the world.
Yeah.
and
Oh,
I
yeah.
have one.
I'm gonna
I have
pass
one.
on that salsa
Yeah,
one.
I don't use that.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna dry it, maybe just like turn it into like a chili flake blend instead, because I'm
Okay.
also a little intimidated from the videos I've seen.
Yeah.
Next year, Michael's coming with salsa.
Oh,
So
yeah.
everyone's on notice
So
for
the,
next year.
The meal bus. If Michael whips out the salsa, just know. Yeah.
Everyone
Community
is on-
space only.
Yeah. Everyone is on notice. I love how that was baking. You were like ready to fire that question away. Yeah.
Yeah. But I guess on a serious front, you did share a lot around your experience and how public media played a role in that. You know, like I'm in this space right now where I'm like balancing, do I want to get a van and like potentially do a lot of the pursuits that I know historically when I was growing up were considered as like dirtbag pursuits.
Yeah.
And even that like phrasing has a connotation and association of it historically being white individuals that lived off of like, you know, $2 a day, were transient, but there's certain perspectives that are gained out of a lifestyle of that type.
Oh yeah.
And I think that you referenced that. It was like the ability to, again, that perception is also sometimes a fallacy, but sometimes that is a reality. But what's gained of it is like, I now know myself. I know what I want to do. I know the experiences that I want to partake in. So can you speak to what was gained? What did you learn about yourself by living and doing like, you know, a more relaxed life where you were living out of a vehicle, going, starting each day of like, because I can, I can say from my travel of people that have seen me like travel and record my travel, that was me. It was like, I woke up and I was like, what do I want to do today?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to go here. Okay, let's go there. And, oh, what time do I want to like eat? All right, well, let's start boiling water and like get that meal ready. It's a very interesting life that like at first, for the longest of time, I was like, oh, that's like, nah, like, no. But I could literally see myself for sure doing it. It's so exploratory. So yeah, again, like circling back, like what did you learn about yourself through that experience that you'd be willing to share?
I think one of the things that you could for me at least, it was like little tweaks that helped me reduce my impact, for instance. So like for a long time, I just didn't really use water on my toothbrush. And I think like so many people across the US probably put a little water on their toothbrush each maybe morning, each evening. And like that to me just felt like I was off the grid in a sense where like I wasn't contributing to electricity or much water usage. And like, yeah, I still drove, but a lot of times I'd drive a place and I'd be there for a couple months, bike around typically. So that's really reframed on, I think, like what I wanted or needed, I think, for myself personally, which has been really cool. I've read a lot because you don't have a TV.
Yeah.
I still don't have a TV. And you get a chance to kind of like get so many different perspectives from people that you want to choose to read, you know, and that felt really powerful to like actively like read through an entire book and like finish those concepts. And yeah, I think a big thing too is like growing up, money was like tight. It was like very, all right, what's going to happen here? What's going to happen there? Like that's kind of the reason why I really liked hunting and fishing. I could like bring something back.
Yeah.
But once I got like some more of the business perspective from college and then applied that to living $2 a day, I was like, I think I'm like hacking the system, and maybe people know this, maybe they don't, but like, it just felt like if I could take care of all my bills and like treat myself as a business and get to like essentially not spending more than I need to, then I could take time off. I could go spend 2 weeks doing this trip or this other thing because everything was taken care of, and anything extra I either saved or allowed me to like pursue a passion.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the current media is feeding us a fallacy. the accumulation of goods is like what we need to focus on. Like,
Yeah,
oh, you need
yeah.
these shoes, you need this, like,
Yeah.
you need this 5,000 square foot home when it's just you. And like realistically, just from a conservation and preservation standpoint, like that's not sustainable, but also just individually, like you don't need all this stuff that you are taught or even visualizing as a necessity, you know? There's so much that we can just live off naturally. So
It gave me a lot of empathy too to like the home free or homeless population as
For
well.
sure.
I think like I still had a vehicle that I felt like safe in for the most part, and still like had a job. I was like choosing to try and like step away, but also like certain circumstances in my life made it like the best choice for me. But yeah, it was just interesting to like really kind of gain that perspective of like where I park it is where I live sort of thing. And like, yeah, there's a bit of fallacy. I think sometimes people are like, van life's awesome, van life's amazing, like it's all really cool, or like, if you do that, you need this like $70,000 vehicle, and it's like, that in itself is like a privileged version of like being nomadic and homeless and home free, and it's like, you know, it gets real when you have to like use the bathroom in a parking lot at 2 a.m. because like you don't have any place to go. So, and that like really I think helped. Build just more empathy within me.
yeah, for sure. I would say from my experience too with the past travels, that's something that I learned a lot about, just the privilege that I have, like my home, you know, living in the space that I have, like that's a true privilege, like that's a gift. The ability to pull into my driveway, pull onto my street and like park my car and go inside and have, you know, on-demand heat, on-demand air conditioning, you know, gas and electric, where I can boil water on demand. Like all of that stuff is just such a privilege that sometimes you forget.
Yeah.
So
I think too, it like when you said that, like it also taught me like what I really value and what I want. Like I love food and I love music, and like I have a really solid stereo system. I have like a record player. Like I'm here in Portland. I'm excited to go out and try different foods. Like I really, people say like your budget reflects your values, and I think that really started to shape when I had limited dollars, like what I was spending my time on, like what gear did I want to get, how could I get it for potentially cheaper, what were the experiences I was excited for, because like I spent a winter living in it and it was like cool, like never again like that. But like that was a really good learning experience to be like, you shouldn't be in a van in the winter, and like you should spend money to like have that level of like being inside. So like in that, again, empathy and perspective of like I had that job to like make that decision, and so but yeah, really good insight.
for sure, good context for sure.
I've got so many questions. I want to backtrack and really applaud you, admittedly, for the conviction that was shown to like do that, you know? Perhaps there's others within this phase or this space of like, I want to pivot or I want to readjust, you know, my current environment or perceptually like what I'm going through, but don't have the conviction for whatever the reason, not an indictment, to move in that direction. Do you have words of advice for people that are seeking that tipping point or seeking to gain that conviction to be like, I just need to like train or change my environment, or like perhaps not go live in a van or any kind of capacity there. Perhaps it just starts with like, I want to go to my national park. I want to like go to my neighborhood park for the first time instead of sitting sitting in front of the television. Like, how about I set my daily routine to like walk a mile or go outside? Like, do you have recommendations or like advice that you'd give for those people as well? Perhaps through learned or shared experience that you've had.
For me, I have to like acknowledge my vulnerability and knock down the like black male ego and just admit that I'm scared. Like a lot of the things I'm doing is like I'm by myself. I'm not in a majority, and like you get the looks, you get the stares, and like that is gonna happen. And the joy that you can get personally is for me been enough to like find the right people, find the right community, continue to go back, and it makes it worth it. And so I think like there's a long time like I wouldn't really acknowledge that. I was like, oh, I don't really want to do it. Why? Like, and so as soon as I was like, nope, this is gonna be spooky, this is gonna be a little scary, like, and we're just gonna see, because like last night they talked a lot about like the shoulders, you know, the giants that people are standing on. It's like, there's people been doing really scary things to move things forward, and I think that's the advice, because like I have a 17-year-old niece, and I tell her a lot of those things, like acknowledge your vulnerability, step into those spaces. Like it's gonna be hard, and like you have ancestors who are like applauding you for just like being an act of rebellion in these spaces.
I love that. And to like anticipate resistance.
Yeah.
You know, admittedly.
Yeah.
I think the adage is like a tree with strong roots can bear any storm. So like knowing it's not like if the storm comes, it's a matter of when.
Yeah.
Because that's going to test your conviction. That's going to test like, is this something that I really want to do? Which like, if it's not, that's cool. Like, you know, that experience is good enough to say like, nope, we're going inside next winter. You know, like that's totally fine.
Self-reflection.
Yeah. But admittedly, the experience and like the process lends itself very nicely to the result as to how that shaped you. Not that you're like a finished product, but you know, what you're doing at this point in time was influenced by all the processes, like all the possible failures from prior to be like, yo, I'm Michael and I'm here and this is what I'm doing with conviction.
Yeah.
So kudos. Jumping back one more time, you mentioned mentorship.
Yeah.
And the role that played within leading you to hunt, to camp, to fish. Like, mentorship's a big word, you know, admittedly, because it looks different. Like, my mentors look different than Marcus's mentors, and the ways in which they poured into me, perhaps in the same activity, looks different for me than it did for Marcus. So, like, tangibly, what did that look like for you? And if it's, like, possibly even identifying who that person was, if you feel comfortable with doing so, like, share if you feel compelled.
So 3 of them come to mind. The first one was my 8th grade science teacher. And I think I went to a school that was predominantly black, and he was a white science teacher, and like relatively rowdy school. Like typically there was like police officers out front for various times of most days. But like the thing that he always just like really had like deep like acts of service essentially towards groups of young people, regardless of what they looked like, at least how it seemed to me, and it was true. And so I'd expressed like excitement around hunting and fishing. He was a person who hunted and fished, and like was really amazing with just like chatting with my parents and trying to figure stuff out. And like he took me on some of my first hunting trips, which was like so influential for me to then like bring something back to my family and be like, awesome, like I can be a part of our like community. And so that was like the first one. And then I had a neighbor who was similar, just another really kind old white dude who was like, yeah, like you seem passionate, you seem great, like your parents are cool with it, like let's pursue this, why the heck not? And then the last one, once my dad was like, oh wow, you're like actually kind of serious, he asked around, and a friend that he worked with, that guy's father, older black gentleman, was a hunter, and he got me in connected. And that was the first time I was like, oh man, like this is crazy. And it's cool because I'm still in touch with him today. And like I just recently was hunting in September and sent him a photo of something that I got, and he was like, that's amazing, like oh man, like I remember when you were like 14 years old. He was like freaking out. It was just like so cool to like full circle that. So yeah, I think like for me, people showing up, acts of service, like that to me feels like really strong like roots of like mentorship.
Agreed.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that plays a huge role in the perception of life. You know, a great experience with community will shape your perspective on that activity and space. So I'm glad that you found individuals that'll pour into you. I can say for me, it's the same way. Those foundations of how you were mentored and how you connected, like how has that shown up in your day-to-day life? I know what you do professionally, so I would assume that skill and connection is reciprocated with the youth, the families that you work with now. So can you kind of get into that? And maybe if you're interested in displaying kind of like the work you do professionally, that would be great too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, am I doing this right? If yeah, everything okay? Keep it going.
Well, we're good.
Awesome.
You're excellent here.
Yeah, I'd say I'm driven by acts of service. I think like that to me is like a pure joy to like watch someone's dreams come true and be able to be a part of that process and like facilitate that, because I've actually had that happen for me and to me. And then what I do professionally, I work for a program called the YMCA Bold and Gold, and it's a national program across the country. We currently have 11 locations, and the focus is 6th to 12th grade youth. And in the locations, most of them are based out of like a Y association in metropolitan area. And we really focus on socioeconomic and racial diversity within our groups. And we have a few different standards and models for that. And really what we were looking for is to try and get a like fingerprint of that metropolitan area into the backcountry of that 6th to 12th grade. And 1 to 3 weeks, typically, we do run some shorter courses like overnights or kind of like intro courses for like 2 or 3 days at like a campground. However, we're all like, oh, if we can get people just like 1 week in the woods, like it's you know, it's been shown that after day 4, like the makeup in your body changes and how good and wonderful it is for folks. So yeah, that's what I do professionally. I work on their expansion team, but I've been like a trip leader for them out of Seattle. I worked as like a national program manager for a bit, and now I run more of the operations and like fidelity standards for them. And I get a chance to be on the WRMC because of it, which is really cool. So the risk management conference has been fantastic. Kind of got me in touch because of that. So yeah, try and like very focused in equity in the outdoors, just because it felt like few and far between that I was able to see like really good role models. And like I said, my 17-year-old niece is like a big driver for me. So it's like if she can see someone that she knows doing those things, like that's what I want to do professionally. I want to like, even if no one ever sees me besides just her, stoked that she's like, cool, I know this brown person who like skis, climbs, fishes, hunts, like I can do anything. And that's like, it ripples from her essentially.
Yeah. I got a big question for you here. Like we, in the people that we interview, admittedly, and connect with on the show are beacons of hope. For other people surrounding joy, but also for influence, as you kind of just alluded to. Acts of service, to be on shows such as this, to say like, I'm out here and you can tag along with me, or even just to make themselves accessible. But that's not everyone, admittedly, within this space. Like I know I have friends that are just like, this is a solo venture for me.
Yeah.
And that's it. Do you have like a charge for people as to like the value and the merit for inspiring, or even just like being, you mentioned vulnerability to share. Like we've had really vulnerable conversations on the show to be, and coming from us, but also coming from others to say like, it wasn't always easy, but the byproduct of that, just from people reaching out to us directly to say like, you inspired me, and I did this or that, and so on and so forth. So perhaps not to like change people's minds as to those that are in a position of like, no, this is a solo venture, I don't want to share. But do you have like a charge for compelling them to do so?
I think just most recently, yeah. I was like talking about like I was scared to be out there and show people. I was like nervous what folks would think. I didn't really think there was much of a voice that I had. And then this past February, I met a really good friend ice climbing, Marcos, and he completely changed my perception of like, he would say like, they got to see us to be us. And like, I'm like, oh my God. And like, we just continued to have conversations. And he was like, he's like, what would your life have been if you would have saw a version of yourself? And I'm like, it just feels like kind of ego. And he's like, no, like that is what people need to see. And we have so many different platforms now to show that and like connect individuals and connect community from abroad. And like you said earlier, like there could be, I could talk for X amount of time and maybe just 1 minute of it and someone resonates with, but that's all they needed. And like, that's the huge piece. So, I still don't necessarily feel like charged to do it, but it's just one of those things where I'm like, okay, I like should lean into that vulnerability, lean into that uncomfortable feeling, because like maybe there's someone out there who's like, oh, I like would like to try those things, or those things kind of called to me, and I'm out here too, so we're just like out here together, there's just, it's happening. So
yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I would love to hear your perspective on that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for me, throughout every recreation activity that I participate in, I have like heroes that I find of just like, and it's not like you're a professional athlete that has 1 million followers on Instagram and things of that nature. It's like the people that are just being real, of just like, yo, I cried when I ran on this trail for 13 miles at the end and it sucked, like those are the people that are compelling to me, to inspire like me to be transparent for others. I hope only to be a conduit for inspiration for other people, so that they see me and they're like, I'm not the only one towing the start line of a half marathon or a full marathon, and it's like not just me. And I think that transcends as well, to the outdoor space, for jumping, even if it's on a solo venture, to jump on the trailhead and be like, yo, Marcus was on this too. It's like, it's not just me, which I think really like humanizes this whole process. It would be like, yeah, like I'm fishing in Baltimore and like other people were here too that look like me.
Yeah.
Like I am such a proponent of like the social network and the ways in which I can give to others, like tangibly, and also ways in which that can't be measured.
Yeah.
I hope to be an open book for other people in a number of different ways, not just like tactfully to say like, don't run 13 miles, you should run 8, or things of that nature, but also to be like there.
Yep.
It's like as a resource for people as well. So, and I know that's like, from a social standpoint, really changed for you as of recent. Even as like a consumer of like the things that you're posting on social, I'm like, yo, this is different from like what Marcus used to be.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say like used to be, because we're all like continuing to evolve, but like the way in which I'm consuming your social just changes my posture of like receiving. It's like, whoa, this is dope.
For sure.
So like just for other people to see what you're doing is like really awesome as well. So I don't know how that strikes or lands with you.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a through line for the conversation is, I definitely for the longest of time was really connected to your story in terms of, I did a lot of solo trips, and I think the intention for my solo trips were originally for me to explore like my social, emotional development, but also my identity of like what do I want to be outdoors? Do I want to be like a recreationist that loves to just like go and recreate in these spaces, or do I want to make the outdoors my life in terms of like a space where like conservation is top of mind, preservation as a continuum for like my kids whenever I have them, or like or that's a blessing for me that they can have the same experience outdoors from me. So I was constantly exploring individually in hopes that like, oh, I can figure this out and I can identify what I want to be, so I can like share that with people. Because I think from my perspective, I get fired up around knowing what I want to do. Like when I know in any avenue, like I want this car. Awesome. Oh, this is great. I want this van. Like, oh, dog, I'm about to get this van.
What are you looking at?
Yeah. Oh.
Everyone on the set is laughing because we know the story around that and the conviction Marcus is showing.
Yeah, very much so. We went on a little road trip. Well, not really a road trip. It's actually just like a block from where we were staying. We drove by this facility that has like older Toyota vans that are actually imported, and they're amazing. Reliable vehicles, and I was inspired by the 2 crew members that we have to like actually stop in and check out a van. Mistake on my end, because I was like, I mean, it's a van, who cares? Not in that posture, but like I had been looking at other vans and I was like, I want a van, but like I haven't interacted with one tangibly of like getting in, feeling it, see if it actually fits my lifestyle.
It does.
Nonetheless, it fits very well. So I went in and was like, oh.
Is Delica? Is that what it was?
They do have Delicas there, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Other Toyota vans besides that?
Oh, yeah.
Whoa, cool.
I found myself looking down at the watch like, I should probably leave. Like, now's probably the time for me to go home and like think about this a little bit. So nonetheless, like, I'm going home and thinking about this a lot.
I'm excited.
Terms of like, do I want to call my guy up and say like, go ahead and here's the funds, and I'll see you in a few weeks when I fly back and drive it back to the East Coast.
We'll swing through Wyoming.
Yeah. So that's my I have to go back, and the plan is to stop at a few national. I have to drive back. So what are the national parks and spaces that I haven't hit yet? So I might be reaching out to you very soon on my trip back. So I say all that to say, like, I know like who I am and what I want to be and how I want to share who I am and what I believe in. So the trips that I've been taking most recently are catalyst in 2 forms. Like, they're catalysts for our community to see that like Black and brown people are out in these spaces, and they're like they're a connection for you to see the true beauty of our national parks. Because I think sometimes and historically we have had barriers built up both proverbially, ideologically, but also like systems to keep us contained and not see these spaces. And I think social media is a beautiful opportunity for you to say like, here's Canyonlands, and this is like one of the most beautiful spots. You should go here. Yeah. I went here. Here was my experience, and I'm going to list every single thing that I did, every route, the campground, the accessibility, in hopes that like there are shattered barriers now. Like, if you can get there, this is a route that you don't have to do any planning. Just go and do it.
Wow, cool.
So I do all of that, but in addition, it's an emphasis for me to be able to say like, I now have the mastery of this site that I can take my community, my family, my youth, all of these individuals to this space, and I can attempt to recreate the magic that I experienced personally. Because I think that's the true beauty. When you have such joy built up inside of you that you're like, I can't wait to share this with someone. I'm doing it on both fronts. I'm doing it socially, but I'm also having the stars aligned to where I can take someone and have them experience, or hope to have the same experience that I facilitated within myself. So it's like very interesting how that has morphed over the few years, because like Derek said, originally it was just like, my socials was like very bland. I would post information on trips, but it was like, I'm not giving any tea. Like, you might get the like GPS coordinates, but you're not gonna like know the routes that I climbed or like any of that.
Wow.
And I think most recently it's been an epiphany of like, like in a respectful sense, like I was contributing to problems individually. Okay. You want to say the outdoors are for everyone and like it's accessible, but like, bro, you've seen some of the most beautiful spots, but you're not even sharing that, so flips on its head that even internally you may have the best intentions, and even as an individual within the community, but you're not doing what you should be doing. And I would say enough is a continuum, in terms of like, enough is enough, but no, you can do more. The stagnation of what you think is enough for you, the community might not actually perceive it that way. Yeah. And you only just have to change 1% to be able to make an impact that's like 90% above what the expectation is. So I know that's a long-winded answer, but like that's the philosophical change in terms of how I've approached just giving information that is, it's not difficult for me to do. Just give the information, so,
Yeah. And that's, blind spots are prevalent because you're blind to them.
Yeah, for sure.
So being willing to like reframe your line of sight really shapes and changes, all the things that may come surrounding that. Which I feel like is a good segue to your upcoming travels. Do you have anything upcoming on your end, whether it's like expeditions, travels, projects, events, things that you want to amplify, or even, bring to light at this point in time? Manifest, so to speak.
We've been manifesting a lot here, so.
Cool. I like to do that as well. Yeah. I feel like I'm riding off like a really big high already, so I kind of have like a bit of a lull. The WRMC, huge though. I think that's been good. I guess like adventures, I'm gonna go, so the Wyoming Ice Climbing Festival, big shout out for folks if you're out there. I'd say go check it out. Also, like a month later after that, it's in February, like that first week, the Michigan Ice Climbing Festival.
Yeah. What's the name of it? Is it, does it have a specific name?
Which one?
The Michigan.
The Michigan Ice Climbing Festival.
It's just that. Okay.
This will be my third year going back. Okay. It's amazing. Like, there's a group called Detroit Outdoors that brings a bunch of youth that climb rock typically in the summer, and then they get a chance to get up on some ice, and they also bring like community partners and like adults as well who have never been. It's in the Upper Peninsula, and so some people have been like once or twice, some people have never been, and I like work with that organization because we have a Bold and Gold in Detroit, and so like that is like, if anybody's in Detroit or like the Michigan area, like head up. It's gonna be a good time. I'm so excited. But yeah, I think those are it, really. I have like a leadership conference that's coming up, so I'm excited for that too. Always trying to like continue, like you said, to develop, never quite done. What can I get new perspectives of? and fall is still just ever so slightly in Lander. So
Yeah.
I like hopefully can get back and just even like go do some hiking and
There we go.
see the trees.
Nice. Nice.
Sure.
How about y'all?
Oh, you go first.
Me?
Yeah. I got a few trips, so I'm like,
Cool.
For me, I have a couple of races
Oh, awesome.
that I have upcoming. One in Pittsburgh, one in Phoenix with Lululemon. I'm an ambassador for Lululemon.
Sick.
So that's upcoming for me. Admittedly, I haven't had time for like throughout this year for like external travel
Okay.
outside of projects and work and things that I'm stewarding, such as
Yeah.
this. But looking forward to being filled up within, the racing capacity for me there. I know you have a lot to share and
Yeah.
to recap, but to share.
heck yeah.
yeah. A few trips. I've got Austin coming up in 2 weeks. Going to be going back to North Carolina for a bit to mountain bike for some spaces. Going to get prepped to do some climbing at the New River Gorge over, I would say,
Heck yeah.
late fall, early winter. Priming up for our winter programming as well. So winter is around the corner. Skiing, snowboarding is going to be here before we know it.
Can't wait.
Yeah,
Can't wait.
yeah.
Yeah.
Going to do a lot of trips this winter, like personal trips in terms of going and skiing and snowboarding in new places that I'm super hype about. I won't spill the tea on that, but that will be socially activated as well.
Awesome.
And oh, Jesus. Good thing I paused. That
And
was
there's
like-
the answer to the question. Is it
Yeah.
going to be loud when it pulls off? Yes.
There we have it. I don't even know if I want to like give another answer before I get sauced on. Yeah, I'm gonna be planning some national park trips
Heck yeah.
for next year too. So I'm super hyped about that. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Any-
Shout outs that you have, Michael, you mentioned some of the mentors, but even just like shout outs that you want to give and provide to people, organization, brand, whatever that may be for you.
Ooh, that's a great question. Robin Childs, one of my biggest mentors.
Yeah.
Big shout out to her. We get a chance to see her for the first time in a little while, and I'm excited for that. I think Bolton Gold's fantastic. Like, if you haven't checked us out, like, hopefully you know somebody between the ages of 6th and 12th grade in an area that we do stuff in that you'd want to get them to go out, because I think we have, really cool messaging, cool programming, cool curriculum, and we just recently got survey results as well, so we got some metrics to go with the experiential experience, which has been cool. So I think we actually do a really good job via the metrics as well. Detroit Outdoors, I just mentioned them. If you haven't checked them out, go
Yeah.
there. They're awesome.
for sure.
It's kind of probably it. Yeah, I don't know.
Those are good recs.
Yeah.
No, that's part of what we're hoping to instill
Yeah.
is for
Yeah.
people throughout the audience to have possible recommendations and ways in which they can connect possibly outside of their space,
Yeah.
or their state or their city, but also could perhaps be right around the corner that they had no idea about, and which we can lend recommendations from each person surrounding such. So thank you for providing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, any way we can stay engaged with you in terms of like socials if you're on them, but
Yeah, very limited.
Okay, okay.
But it's thedavis.michael. My last name's Davis, so THEDAVIS.MICHAEL. It's pretty much the easiest way to get a hold of me. And then Bolden Gold, that website, you can always reach out via email. That's where I work, so it's pretty
Perfect.
easy.
Cool.
easy enough, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Also, there's Bolden Gold Instagram. Check them
Yeah.
out. Why Bold Gold? We
Yeah.
don't do a ton, but we have some stuff if people are interested as well.
For sure.
Love that.
Yeah, sometimes it gets overwhelming with all of the ways to stay engaged. Just like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish I did more. Hearing your story, I'm like, okay, I need to figure out. No, truly though, because I think the more people I chat with who are really excited about that, it is sometimes I feel like, wow, I do see these places. I get a chance to see the sunrise in this spot, and
Yeah.
everyone should get the opportunity to see that. And
Yeah.
there's various reasons why people don't. So what's one of the better ways I can figure out to bridge that gap and that access? Because some people do live through some of that, and that's huge. So
For sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
next time.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And like I respect the conservation side of things, but like everyone has their secret spot.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's like, let's share that secret spot.
Totally.
So it can become the secret of Marcus and the secret of I. That we can share and perhaps like it opens access to other people. Again, respecting the conservation side of things.
Well, there's still so much. That's the thing. Like you talk about national parks.
The
and
land
stuff,
is so vast. Let's enjoy it, for sure.
Monuments, national forests. Like there's a lot of your backyard, like you said. There's a lot of West.
Yeah.
Parks.
Yep, no doubt.
For sure. Well,
cool.
We'll go ahead and give it a wrap. I know we're right at time, so
thanks
you again.
Michael, appreciate your time.
That was
great.
a pleasure.
Yeah.
Look forward to connecting more.
Likewise.
Sustained, my brother. Sustained. That's a wrap, man.
Thank you all.